I talk about crime a lot on this channel, and I've gone over really terrible cases, really terrible crimes, and I'm sure some of you out there have had some very strong feelings about some of the criminals that I've covered. But the thing is, one of the things that really bothers me in terms of criminality are not necessarily the giant crimes that everybody knows exactly how bad they are, and actually when the person gets caught, hopefully they get significantly punished for those crimes. I'm talking about the things that you immediately jump to when I say what qualifies you for life in prison, what qualifies you for the death penalty if you have the death penalty in your state. Today, what we're going to talk about is a crime that is often undercharged, and it's really undercharged in parts of the Western world where it's quite common, like in London, and of course, I'm talking about acid attacks. And unfortunately, an acid attack has made its way to the city of New York. It occurred in a subway. The person at the time of me recording this video appears to still be at large, and I can't stand for this. This is disgusting. It's horrible. Of course, this crime is used disproportionately against women, and considering that the acid attacks are intended to scar people, a lot of times on their face, you can understand why it's so bothersome to see this occur in the city that I live in. But before we get into the story, because it is heavy, and we're going to have to do a deep, uninterrupted dive into it, we got a sponsor, so let me toss it to the sponsor. It's going to be a quick one. Then we'll come back over here and discuss this whole thing on the other side. Apple and other companies have a long history of restricting apps from their app store and restricting information as it's displayed on search results and in other ways, depending on if you're using their software. This is one of the reasons why I highly recommend that you get a VPN, and the absolute best VPN, the VPN of this channel, is Virtual Shield. If you go over to virtualshield.com/justice, you can experience the freedom of a strict no-log VPN that's one of the top in the industry, and guess what? You can try it for free for 30 days, and there's a discount right now available to members of my audience of 73% off, and that 73% will hold for the length of your time with Virtual Shield. You can't afford to miss this deal. Go over to virtualshield.com/justice and try it out for yourself.
Many of the residents that rely on this subway station behind me were absolutely terrified when they heard what happened. Many of them believing that it's just another vicious attack by a disturbed individual.
That's horrible. That's so violent.
A Brooklyn woman horror-struck by news of a deranged attack happening hours earlier at her neighborhood subway station.
So first and foremost, I do want to make fun of the local news a little bit in two regards, because they're standing in front of a subway station that looks absolutely horrifying. There's graffiti all around it. If you guys are unaware, one of the old initiatives of New York City was to actually stop the graffiti. Now, of course, it's not being prosecuted in the way that it should be prosecuted, but there's also a siren blaring in the background. So when she opens this segment saying, a lot of people who take this subway station daily don't feel it's safe based on the story that I told you. But the thing is, you probably shouldn't feel like this subway station is safe, because it looks like one of the more shady subway stations in the city of New York. There's a bunch of red flags that should have set you off before this news story, and the way that she kind of introduces it also downplays the significance of this story, because she says a lot of people view it as the same pattern or within the stream of violence that we've seen on the subway, but this is a unique attack, and it is significantly worse than a lot of the attacks for the reasons that I'm going to explain to you guys.
Many of the residents that rely on this subway station behind me were absolutely terrified when they heard what happened. Many of them believing that it's just another vicious attack by a disturbed individual.
Also, I have to point out that I absolutely hate the framing that the person behind this attack is some disturbed individual, as if they're some kind of a victim, because when you go through the details of the story, when you follow it step by step, what you realize is that there's an element of premeditation to this attack that should not be ignored. And when you just say, oh, this person's disturbed, like it was a mental illness or something like that, you're obfuscating the point that this person had a chemical substance at the ready in case an argument that she started with somebody else ended up not going the way that she wanted to. So this was a premeditated attack, because having the acid on you in the first place is an element in that premeditation. I don't want to hear about disturbed individuals. Disturbed individual might do something crazy spontaneously, but this person is making dangerous weapons, starting arguments, and using them against innocent people.
It was during the dark and early hours of 1 a.m. Sunday morning inside the Winthrop Street subway station when police say this woman,
started an argument with a 21-year-old female. You can see from this cell phone video provided by the NYPD a small bottle in her right hand as she follows the 21-year-old girl who's trying to escape up the station's staircase. Police say that's when the woman splashed liquid in the victim's face before taking off and disappearing into the night.
Now, I just want to give some context to this situation so you can understand a little bit about the victim, because the way the news media covers this is kind of lackluster in regards to details. So, the victim was a 21-year-old female. The reason she was out riding the train at that time is that she was actually on her way to the hospital because she is a healthcare worker. So, this is somebody doing the graveyard shift, taking the subway in the neighborhood station, and all of a sudden a woman starts an argument with her. And by the way, we need to really emphasize the description of this woman because I found it quite troubling, especially when you factor in everything that I just told you. Young girl, works in the hospital, obviously wants to help people, gets into an argument with a crazy person on the train with acid at the ready. But let's go into the build of this person. So according to the police, this person is around 30 years old, 6 feet tall, and weighs 150 pounds. So again, just imagine you're a young girl, you're doing the right thing, you're going to work, and all of a sudden when you're on your regular subway routine, somebody who is just sitting normally decides to flip out, decides to come after you, so you exit the train, which by the way is what you're supposed to do when a crazy person starts going off on the train, and this person continues the argument, then you try to exit the train station, but she chases you up the stairs and decides to splash a chemical substance that she had at the ready in your face. Look, there's almost nothing on this woman's description in any of the coverage that I've been able to find so far. We don't have any images of the chemical burns to one side of this woman's face, but I've seen the effects of acid when it makes contact with people's faces, and it's destructive, it's horrifying, it is lifelong scarring, especially if you're not able to wash it off incredibly quickly. If you do something like this to another person, I think you should be charged as high as an attempted murder, even though what ends up going on is not necessarily a deadly threat, unless certain circumstances are met. I'm just saying that the punishment for a lifelong maiming of somebody should be significant. It should be in the 10s, if not 20s of years. And I don't want to hear anything about this person being disturbed or anything like that. She had pre-prepared acid. She is not to be on the streets. This is not acceptable. She maimed a 21-year-old girl who was on her way to work at the hospital. And this ridiculous, absurd notion that we have to pretend that there's 2 victims in this scenario is about as useful as if we pretended that there were 0 victims. Hey guys, editing Sean here. I've seen the images. I've seen the woman's face who was burned by this monster. And I'm not going to show you the images because I'll spare you that, although there will be an article linked in the description, just be warned that that is there. But I want to just read you some of her quotes from this article. Quote, "I was just frantic. I was in so much pain. I've never been in a predicament like this. I was panicking. I knew I couldn't wipe it off with my hand because it would get off my hand. The skin on her nose hardened and doctors believe the liquid burned her nerves, cartilage, and tissue so badly they may have to graft. Quote, it hurt tremendously. It's like my face was on fire. It felt like pins and needles times 10. Now, of course, the stupid Kathy Hochul, we're going to put cameras in the subway initiative, is nowhere near close to done. It won't be done for years, and even when they are installed, they weren't working, so there's no actual surveillance video. So the person who got the cell phone footage is the only reason that we're able to even know who did this. Now, I will be looking into this case. I will be trying to follow up on this case. I want this person prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. It is the Brooklyn District Attorney, thankfully not the Manhattan District Attorney, although, again, it's still going to be a left-wing district attorney that is at the ready for this, but you need to catch this person. Also, because this person's still on the run, I'm going to show the face. I know I have a certain segment of my audience in the city of New York. She wears quite distinct clothing. She's also a crazy person who might flip out. Please do not confront her, especially if you're a girl. She's out on the loose in Brooklyn attacking random people, and we need to put a stop to her. This person needs to be in a cage for a very long time, and I'm wishing the victim in this case a speedy recovery. But again, depending on how fast she was able to get to the hospital, luckily she was already on her way there because she happened to work there, this could be a life-altering incident. It could physically scar her for life. on top of the emotional scarring of just being targeted and chased down and attacked in this vicious way. Look, when you create an environment of lawlessness, every single thing starts breaking down, and you start to see things that are more heinous than you could ever possibly expect. I know a lot of people are against broken windows policing because, first and foremost, they have no idea what broken windows policing is, but one of the core tenets, at least in its implementation in the city of New York, was the fact that they were going to stop people from fare evading. Now, I don't know if this person didn't pay for the train, but I wouldn't be surprised if this person didn't pay for the train, since the MTA is reporting that they're losing about $500 million a year from people jumping on the train and not paying. Now, what the NYPD used to do, because they had this theory, was arrest people who jump the turnstiles, because likely these people who don't follow the order that are going to do violent crimes are not going to be too worried about not paying for the subway. It was a method to which you could actually identify, detain, and remove people that would end up committing crimes on the subway or in the interior of the city. Now, let's say the NYPD actually restored its sensible policies that have been proven effective in driving down crime, and the police actually saw this person fare evading. They saw this person jumping the turnstiles, and they decided to make an arrest. And during the course of the arrest, they conducted a search. They would have removed this person's acid, been able to charge them with having a serious weapon, and if we had a criminal justice system that was actually interested in prosecuting criminals, rather than releasing them same day automatically, this person likely would not have been in a position to commit this crime. And by the way, we haven't caught this person yet, so we don't know the lengthy criminal history that this person likely has. You don't just randomly, at age 30 or somewhere there's about years old, randomly flip out on the train, have a bottle of acid at the ready, pick somebody to target, splash that acid in their face for the first time without a previous criminal history at that moment. If this was a younger person, then maybe this would have been their first public instance. But this is a 30-plus-year-old woman. We likely have seen this person in the system before. They've likely committed multiple different crimes. And if they're escalating to this level based on somebody who had no fault in the argument, the police are calling this completely unprovoked. That means they definitely did something, and they definitely had issues with other New Yorkers that were actually going to engage in the argument before. So it is a better than not chance that this person was not only arrested before, but arrested before very recently, not charged properly, or released same day automatically, because that's what bail reform is all about, and they were able to reoffend and permanently scar a 21-year-old healthcare worker who, remember, were heroes 2 years ago when they were going into the hospitals in order to save us from the virus. Because in reality, we all know the truth. You're only a hero when it's convenient for the mainstream media. You only matter when you can be used as a bulwark against the right wing. As soon as your concerns, your actual concerns, become inconvenient to the regime, think about all the healthcare workers that were considered heroes for working without a vaccine who were then fired because they refused to take the vaccine. Then you're garbage, then you're worthless, then they have other priorities, and unfortunately, we have a system that prioritizes crazy people as long as they're under a certain complexion and doesn't prioritize innocent victims, no matter who they are. And that's where we are, and that's why we're in this scenario. I feel so unbelievably horrible for the 21-year-old woman in this scenario, and if there were a GoFundMe or this person's name and face were out there, I would definitely recommend that you guys go out and support them. But unfortunately, right now, she is unidentified. I have no way of verifying if any fundraiser is legitimate. So if you're out there, if you're the victim of this crime, reach out to me. I will try to do something for you, because you shouldn't have to go through your rest of your life scarred in the face at such a young age, all because our system refuses to do what's necessary and punish these criminals and get them off the goddamn street. She's smiling. She's smiling as she's holding a bottle that contains a chemical that she used to burn a girl's face while she was on her way to work over a one-sided argument that she started. She's laughing. She's taking joy in it. If this doesn't piss you off, I don't know what's wrong with you. If this doesn't push you for some level of change in the system that allows this, I don't know where your head's at. Anyway, I'm getting really angry right now, so I'm just going to cut it off here. Those are my thoughts. You know the drill. If you like the video, show me by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on the social medias. You know what the things to do and all that. Till next time.